three world-class projects under our umbrella, all of which are producing around 10 million-ish silver equivalent ounces, taking our production up from around today, about 21 million annualized silver equivalent ounces to about 31 or maybe 32 million silver equivalent ounces in 2025 upon closing.
Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics, and I'm excited to have Keith Neumeyer of First Majestic Silver join me today because, as I assume most of you are aware, they did have a transaction to acquire Gatos Silver. This was back on the 5th of September in a stock transaction valuing Gatos at $970 million. And fortunately, Keith, it's great to have you here with me, and perhaps you could walk people through the deal and the highlights, and then we'll dig in from there.
Sure. Well, first off, Chris, it's great seeing you again. It's been a while since you and I have had a chat online. So, and obviously with silver up today at some, $1.40, I think, because the last time I looked at it, which is a great day, and gold is up, something like $25 or. So yeah, good day to have an interview. Our share price is doing quite well, and there you go, $1.45. That's pretty darn good. Don't see too many days like that, and First Majestic up is as viewers can see as well. Gatos is performing just the same as we're basically lockstep now. Based on the ratio that we're offering Gatos shareholders, which is pretty aggressive bid on our part. 270, no, pardon me, 970 million US dollars in shares of First Majestic. Gatos shareholders end up owning 38% of the combined company, which is a great thing for both shareholder groups. And it combines three world-class district scale mining projects in Mexico. The Santa Elena, which produces, a little around 10 million thereabouts ounces of silver equivalent, of which about 70% of that is gold and about 30% of that is silver. And then San Dimas, which is another, long-standing world-class mine in Mexico as well, 50% gold, 50% silver, also producing around 10 million silver equivalent ounces. And then with Gatos, around the same number. It's actually a little bit bigger, but with the joint venture, we're getting 70% of that production, which is just shy of about 10 million ounces as well. And about 70% of that is silver. The rest is in the form of lead and zinc. So we'll end up having three world-class projects under our umbrella, all of which are producing around 10 million-ish silver equivalent ounces, taking our production up from around today, about 21 million annualized silver equivalent ounces to about 31 or maybe 32 million silver equivalent ounces in 2025 upon closing. So it's pretty exciting for both shareholder groups. Gatos has obviously performed quite well over the last 12 months, and First Majestic has underperformed slightly, as which we can talk about if you wish, but I think it's a great transaction for both companies.
Yeah, and Keith, obviously there were a few big components here, although I imagine one of them was obviously the free cash flow generation at approximately 70 million. Also, there is the exploration potential on the Gatos property, and perhaps you could just give people an idea of what led you to start pursuing this transaction and the key factors that made it a good fit for you.
Well, we're always looking. We never stop, and obviously we know the silver space extremely well. We know Mexico better than probably anyone. We've been in Mexico for 21 years now when I put the company together, and we're a pretty big player in Mexico, so we know the Mexican landscape extremely well. And this asset we've had our eyes on for some time. When it became available earlier this year, it went through a process. The banks got involved, of course, you can imagine. And they had their advisors on their side, and we had our advisors on our side, and there was a whole group of other companies participating. It was a very competitive process that lasted, several months, and came to the end when it was news released, and we ended up being on top of the bidding process, which is good to see. But it was quite competitive, and it was an open bidding system, and Nevertheless, you talked about exploration. Now we look at Santa Elena very much the same as San Dimas, or pardon me, as Los Gatos, because Los Gatos is 103,000 hectares in size. It's a district scale, huge property, very, very underexplored. And then you look at Santa Elena at 102,000 hectares in size, which when we bought it back in 2015, it was producing 3 million ounces. Today it's producing almost 10. And that was all through exploration success. And still a small portion of that property has been explored. So we have 9 rigs active right now at Santa Elena, and there'll be a similar number. I think that there actually is currently a similar number of rigs at Los Gatos. So, they're taking their exploration projects very seriously, as we are within First Majestic. And both of those mines are expandable. And I think the life of mines over the next, 5 to 10 years will be expanded substantially as a result of exploration success.
And you're already at about a 10-year life of mine as is right now, right?
Yeah, I think on paper, I think Santa Elena is around 7. San Dimas is around the same number, maybe 6 or 5 or 6. But these are underground mines, and Los Gatos is around the same. I think it's around 7 to 10. Yes, you're right.
Okay. And you mentioned before we're looking at about 32 million silver equivalent ounces combined, of which half gold, half silver. Can
hmm
you let folks know? I know you had it in your press release, obviously, but the all-in sustaining cost or any other cost guidance that you're looking at as a merged entity.
Yeah, so right now, First Majestic at 43% silver. The rest is in the form of gold. On a combined entity will be 51% silver, and the 49% is broken up between gold and lead and zinc. The lead and zinc is, maybe 20%. The other, whatever the number is, it's 29 or whatever works out to is in the form of gold. And on a cash cost basis or an all-in sustaining cost basis, we do ramp down a little bit. We have seen elevated costs over the last 12 months at Encantada and San Dimas, and this is well documented. We put a lot of news out on this because we have seen these elevations, and the water situation that we had at Encantada drove costs up there, which has now been resolved. So you'll see in Q4 the cost of Encantada coming down. Some of the labor issues we've had at San Dimas have also elevated costs there as well. That normally produces, ounces in the 14 to 15 level. It's been higher in the 18 level over the last 12 months. And then with Gatos coming in, it's in the 16 level. So, all in, a combined entity. Now, of course, we have not put out our 2025 guidance yet, and both companies, Los Gatos and First Majestic, are still in our budgeting process for 2025. But we're expecting, all-in sustaining costs in the, 16 to 18 range next year.
Okay. And I believe you're targeting a January of 2025 closing. Curious if there's any particular hurdles that you have in mind still to clear, or I guess also any potential risks that you're trying to mitigate or things that shareholders would want to be watching out for.
Well, we've been meeting with, our shareholders, of course, but Los Gatos shareholders, we've met with many of them over the last month, or the last several weeks since the announcement came out, and we've got a number of meetings coming up over the next month as well. We've got quite a rigorous travel schedule over the next 2 months. So we'll be meeting more of them and talking to more of them, but I think we've not really heard any resistance. It looks like a win-win for both parties. I think maybe some investors are saying First Majestic's paying too much, unless Gatos is selling for too little. But I guess that's a common thing that you're going to hear from both sides. But the big institutional shareholders, the people that really understand what the combined entity looks like in the future of First Majestic, I know for a fact, because I've spoken to dozens and dozens of people, that it's being looked at as a very favorable transaction. And but we do have to go through shareholder votes. That's, a transaction of this size. You need both shareholders to vote, and we don't know that date yet because there's a couple of moving parts related to regulatory and legal situations with the SEC and so on. So we'll know in the next 30 to 45 days, we expect, when the shareholder vote can take place, but we're hoping it's going to be late November or possibly early December. And then, assuming that all takes place, we do need the Mexican antitrust Also, too, that's a common thing every time a transaction occurs, even in Canada, for example, or the United States for that matter. The government steps in and make sure there's not a monopoly situation and those types of issues. So so does go through that regulatory process within the country, Mexico, and it should be pretty easy. We've gone through it many times. It takes 60 to 90 days. With the change in government, which takes place on October 1st, it potentially could cause a delay of some weeks. I'm not sure about that, but there is always that potential. But we do expect closing will occur in January. At least that's our current target.
Okay, and certainly seems like coming at a good time, especially with the silver price being higher. Let's leave aside what may or may not happen, but even at a 32 and a half silver price, any thoughts on how you feel that leaves the company combined? Let's say we had that price going forward for a couple of years with the new profile.
Yeah, we obviously have some numbers internally, and we need to put out official guidance, both companies on, upon closing, we'll, if we don't close in January, we also will, we'll put out our First Majestic guidance for 2025 as well as Los Gatos, I'm assuming, would put theirs out, and then whenever closing does occur, if it's somehow delayed and to February or whatever the case may be, we would then put out a combined guidance number. The number I already gave you of 30 to 32 million ounces silver equivalent is kind of like our back of the envelope number that we're expecting. But
Right.
look for further details on that, and we're not ready to really get into details at this point.
Okay, well, we will keep an eye out for that. And something you mentioned a little bit earlier, just worth going over again, was the La Encantada water issue, which is now resolved. And you were saying we're looking at fourth quarter when we'll see that impacted into the cost structure.
Hmm. Yeah, it was pretty crazy because that mine's it's our smallest mine. It produces around 3 million ounces of 100% silver and Dory bars, which is great. It's been a great cash flow producer for us for, geez, almost a decade. Well, actually, longer than a decade. We bought it in 2006, and it's been a great cash flow provider for the business and has helped finance us, and other endeavors, over that period of time. So, when this well collapsed in June of 2023, it was completely unexpected. And this mine has three wells, each producing approximately 30% of the water each. And, one goes, and all of a sudden you lose 30% of your water, and you need water in the process. So all of a sudden, you can't turn the mills, you can't do underground development, you can't do exploration. But we could have, I suppose, laid off the workforce, but we didn't know when we were going to discover a new water well, and we thought it would be quite easy to do. Well, we didn't discover a new water well until April of 2024 of sufficient capacity, and it took us a few months after that to build the piping system and get it to the mill. So starting in June, July, we started filling up all the tanks again, which took some time. So we went from about 2,000 tons a day, which was losing money. So costs went up to about $30 an ounce, which is pretty shocking, and it lasted there for a couple of quarters. And now we're back up to over 3,000 tons a day, which is normal course for that operation. All the tanks are filled back up with water. We're all back, 100%. The grades are actually looking quite interesting. So, we're going to, I think, we should see, just based on the last few weeks, a pretty darn good fourth quarter for La Encantada going back to its normal cost structure in the, 18 kind of dollar range where it's been for the last several years.
Yeah, certainly that is going to help. And it seems like we have a little help on the silver price side too. So I know people
Hmm.
are excited to see how things play out throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And a couple last quick ones here. Just shortly after the deal, you guys did announce the share repurchase program. And is there anything
Hmm.
you could share on the decision there?
Well, I was quite distressed with what was happening with our share price. I just couldn't, and I don't really understand really why it was, down to where it was at. And I look, we had some issues that which we've talked about clearly in the marketplace. The Encantada water issue. We've had some labor issues at San Dimas. We, of course, going back a year, we had the closure of Jerritt Canyon. So I think there was kind of a series of, events that, maybe rattled the market a little bit. So our stock was, underperforming the market compared to our peer group for, really about, 3 or 4 quarters, which was a little bit distressing. So I decided to put the share purchase program back in place. We had it in place before, but we hadn't renewed it. But I decided to renew it, and we actually threw some bids into the market to buy some stock, and then all of a sudden the stock took off on us, and now the stock is up 30% or something in the last 4 weeks or whatever it is. I have to do the math exactly, but it's performed quite well over the last few weeks, and so we haven't bought any back, but it's there. If we see any weakness in the stock, we'll definitely be in the market, buying back shares, and I'm happy to do that.
Okay, and the last one for you is just interesting to think the shutdown of Jerritt Canyon about a year ago, and here we are around $1,900 gold price, obviously up at 26.83 in the December futures today.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to pass or comment to whatever degree you can here, obviously, but just curious, obviously, as you've been doing the work there, you have the higher gold price, certainly a good thing. And anything
Yeah.
you'd like to update on Jerritt or how that might be looking right now?
Well, it would actually be making money right now. We've talked internally about this, and but we're going to take it slow because when we turn it back on, we want it to be a long-term sustaining project. We don't want to turn it back on just to take, advantage of current gold prices and then have to turn it off again. It needs a new mine plan, and we made that very clear to our investors that we need to update the mill, and that's going to take some time and money, and we need to redevelop the mine plan. We do have 3 rigs operating right now, which, our geo team is looking for an elephant, and who, whether they discovered it or not, I don't know. But, there's 3.7 million ounces of gold there to find at, 5.2 grams per ton, but the mine plan needs to be redone. We have a third party there on site right now, redoing all that work for us. So we are preparing, for a restart. We'll see how the exploration team does over the next little while. They've got samples being collected now, or core being collected now. So we'll see results over the next couple of quarters. Cross our fingers for that. But it's not necessary for the restart. We're just kind of like, is there blue sky out there? Can we add to the 3.7 million ounces that we currently have defined? If we made the decision today to go and restart, it would probably take us a year to restart it. Just putting the upgrades into the mill, getting the mine plan developed, buying some equipment, getting the people back in place, and it could maybe take 18 months, but it wouldn't happen overnight. But it is definitely something that is on our target list of something to do in the future. But as I said earlier, we want to make the right decision at the right time, so it's a long-term sustainable project.
Well, I can certainly understand that, especially given the size of that and the things that you've had to overcome. So either case, Keith, I sure appreciate you making some time to come and give folks an idea of the latest with the company and especially the Gatos deal. And I will remind everyone, you can find out more at firstmajestic.com. And also, if you have questions for Keith's team, can get in touch there through the contact tab. So Keith,
And Chris, while you're there, you should see the First Mint store. Click on the first right there. So this is our new mint that opened in March. And this is located in Nevada, and you'll see some pretty cool products. So we're in the process of shutting down the First Majestic store, which has been active since 2008. And this new mint, which we own 100% of, and we're producing these products right now. This silver comes right from Mexico, and we're producing retail products. So we're the only mining company in the world that actually mines it and sells it. So rock to rock, I forget the symbol of it, I think on the homepage it says mine to mint, I believe our slogan is. So if people are interested in buying some silver products, please go to the website. Hopefully there's something there that you like.
Well, and we'll have the link in the description field below. And certainly I know a lot of people are very much in favor of silver going directly to end user outside of our COMEX system. And I know that's something you're proud of as well. So Keith, thanks for making some time. Congratulations on the deal, and a lot happening, but seems like you've got a good track going on there, and we will look forward to catching up again soon.
Great, Chris. Thanks again.